Pause here, my beloved child. Pause, because a message is forming somewhere right now, not in the clouds, not in a sermon, inside the shaky hands of someone who keeps opening your name on a screen and closing it again like it burns. You have felt the subtle shift, haven't you? Not a dramatic ending. Not a clean goodbye. Just the strange way the connection went quiet while still feeling awake. Like a lamp left on in an empty room. Perhaps you told yourself you were imagining it. Yet there have been moments, small, almost embarrassing moments, when your chest tightened for no logical reason, and you wondered if someone, somewhere, was thinking of you hard enough to leave fingerprints on your day. They were. And the truth is simple in the way a knife is simple. They have been holding back because fear wore the mask of practicality. It dressed itself up as timing and space and I don't want to disrupt your peace. But underneath it was fear, fear of being seen clearly, fear of being responsible for what they touch. But that's not what changed everything. It happened in a place so ordinary it almost feels insulting to call it a turning point. A coffee shop on a weekday. The kind with mismatched chairs and a pastry case fogging at the corners. The air smelled like burnt sugar and wet wool coats. Someone laughed too loudly near the window. A blender screamed behind the counter. They were in line, staring at the menu as if the right drink could solve the wrong life. Their phone buzzed once, then went still. Their thumb hovered over your chat out of habit, the way the tongue finds a missing tooth. Then the door chimed. And there you were. Not looking for them. Not performing hurt. Just existing. You stood near the pickup counter, half-turned, listening to someone beside you. Your posture was different, steadier. Your face held a calm that wasn't begging for anything. And beside you was a presence. Not romantic, not possessive, just steady. Someone holding space the way a winter coat holds warmth, quietly, without asking to be thanked. Their stomach dropped. Not jealousy, something older. Recognition. One of the baristas called your name, and for a second, the sound of it felt like a bell rung inside their ribcage. A sentence floated over from your conversation, casual as receipts. Yeah, I think I'm really doing it. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. They didn't know what it was. But their hands went cold anyway. Not this time. A coworker behind them nudged their elbow, half joking, half concerned. You look like you saw a ghost. And before they could stop themselves, their voice came out thin. I did. They stepped out of line, the way someone steps away from a ledge without admitting they were close. They pretended to check their phone, pretended to read an email, pretended they were not watching you accept your drink and smile, small, genuine, at the person beside you. Perhaps you would call that smile nothing. Yet to them, it was a door closing softly. And that's when the question arrived, not as a thought, but as a physical pressure behind their eyes. What if I waited too long? They walked out into the street without buying anything. The sky was the color of unwashed glass. Cars hissed over damp pavement. Someone's umbrella turned inside out in the wind. They stopped at the corner, and their phone vibrated again, this time not a message, just the reminder of time passing, the calendar notification that life keeps moving even when you don't. There is a detail you haven't considered, my beloved child: silence is not neutral. It does not just keep things calm. It does things to people. It teaches them to stop reaching. They had told themselves they were being respectful, that you were better off without their inconsistency, that they were sparing you. But the impact didn't care about their intention. As they stood at that crosswalk, watching the red hand blink down, 9, 8, 7, they remembered your face the last time you tried to speak honestly. Not dramatic. Not a scene. Just your eyes holding a question you were tired of asking. And they remembered what they did. They made it small. They made it manageable. They made it later. Later is a liar. On the train home, the lights flickered as if the world couldn't decide whether to reveal itself. Their reflection in the dark window looked older than it should. Their jaw clenched the way people clench when they're trying not to feel. They scrolled through your last conversation without opening it, like someone walking past a room where a loved one is sleeping, quietly, guiltily, afraid to wake what they abandoned. A memory rose without permission. Not a grand confession. Not roses. Not music. Just a kitchen. Your kitchen, my beloved child. Late afternoon light. The kind that makes dust look holy. A glass slipped from their hand, nerves. Distraction, and shattered on the tile. They cursed, sharp and embarrassed, and you didn't flinch. You knelt immediately, not to scold, not to rescue their pride, just to help. You wrapped your fingers in a dish towel, scooped the larger pieces, and then, when you saw a bead of blood on their knuckle, you didn't make it a performance. You simply took your scarf from your neck. The soft one, the one you wore even indoors because you were always a little cold. You wrapped it around their hand like it mattered. Your voice had been gentle, practical. Hold still. And something in them broke open at the simplicity of your care. Not the kind that begs to be repaid. The kind that just does. That was the moment. The moment they realized they loved you. And it terrified them. Because love like that doesn't just ask for feelings. It demands character. It demands follow-through. It demands you don't vanish when things get real. They had wanted to be worthy, and instead of rising, they retreated. They called it being logical. They called it focusing on work. They called it not wanting to complicate you. Fear loves a clipboard. It loves to look busy. But then something happened that made their hands go cold again, colder than the coffee shop. When they got off the train, their sister called. The ringtone startled them like a slap. They almost ignored it. They didn't. "Hey," their sister said, and her voice had that familiar edge of knowing too much. "I ran into your person." Your person. They swallowed. Don't call them that. A pause on the line, the kind that carries a smirk you can hear. You still have their picture? They stared at the sidewalk as people flowed around them like water around a stone. What did they say? Their sister didn't answer that. She answered something worse. They're leaving. I think it's for real. New job. New city. Soon. Soon. 2 weeks. The street noise faded. Their ears rang. It felt like someone had taken the future and folded it in half, creased it, and handed it back to them smaller. If you want to understand what urgency does to a person, my beloved child, picture a match struck in a damp room. The flame fights for air, and suddenly the darkness is not romantic. It's suffocating. They walked the rest of the way home without noticing the shops, the dogs, the couples arguing softly. Their mind replayed every moment they chose later. Every time they left your message on read because they didn't know what to say. Every time they promised themselves they'd reach out when they felt more stable. As if stability is something you find under the couch. At home, they kicked the door shut with their heel. Their apartment was dim, curtains drawn against a cloudy evening. A single lamp in the corner cast a tired circle of light on the carpet. The air smelled faintly like laundry detergent and old takeout. They stood there, coats still on, keys still in hand. And then the breakdown came, not cinematic, not pretty. They slid down the wall until they were sitting on the floor, spine against paint, breathing too fast. Their throat tightened like it was trying to swallow a stone. I protected myself, they whispered to no one. You need to hear this clearly, they did not protect you. They protected themselves. And even now, a part of them wanted to stay hidden. Because reaching out means risking your response. It means facing the consequences of what their silence did. In their head, they heard you, imagined you, because guilt is a skilled ventriloquist. Why now? Another imagined line, sharper. You hurt me. And then the one that scared them most, because it sounded like your newfound calm. Don't call this love if you disappear again. They pressed the heel of their hand to their mouth, as if they could keep the sound inside. Their phone lay face up on the coffee table, a small rectangle of power. There is a moment, my beloved child, when a person realizes the story they've been telling themselves has expired. Like milk you keep sniffing, hoping it's still fine, while already knowing it isn't. They got up, washed their face, stared at themselves in the bathroom mirror. Their eyes were red-rimmed. Their expression looked like someone who had been underwater too long. Then they did the thing they had avoided for weeks. They texted their friend, the one who is blunt in a way that feels like mercy later. Are you awake? They typed. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Yeah, the friend replied. What's going on? They didn't want to say your name. They did anyway, because truth has weight and they were tired of carrying it alone. I saw them today, they wrote. A beat. Then, and? They stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then they confessed with a simplicity that felt like stepping off a cliff. I think they're leaving. The phone rang. Not a call from you. From the friend. They answered on the second ring, breath held. The friend didn't waste time. Do you love them? Their mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. The only honest word came out, small and irreversible. Yes. Silence, then a softer voice than expected. Then stop rehearsing. Tell the truth. They blinked, hard. What if I ruin it? You already did the part that ruins people, the friend said. You left them alone with your mixed signals. Their chest tightened like someone had wrapped wire around it. And then the line, the one that became the spine of everything that followed. The friend said it plainly, without poetry, which is why it landed. They needed honesty, not perfection. That sentence sat in the room like a lit candle. Because honesty means accountability. It means no excuses dressed up as growth. It means you don't ask for access to someone's heart while offering them only mood-based effort. My beloved child, you are not being asked to accept a pretty confession. You are being asked to witness a person finally realizing that words aren't enough, actions and consistency matter. But that's not the end of it. Because when they finally opened your chat, the universe, or whatever you call that quiet intelligence that arranges consequences, placed another obstacle in their hands. Night deepened. The lamp was the only light. The curtains looked like dark water hanging from the ceiling. Their phone glow painted their fingers blue-white. They sat on the edge of the couch like someone waiting for a verdict. They opened your conversation. Your name at the top. Your last scene, if the app still showed it. Your profile picture, if you hadn't changed it, still familiar enough to hurt. They scrolled. Slowly. Carefully. Old jokes. Old plans. A voice note from you laughing at something small. A photo of a book you thought they'd like. Their short replies. Your longer ones. Your patience, visible in the way you kept trying to keep it alive. Then they reached the line. The one from you that stopped them the way a hand on the chest stops a person from stepping into traffic. I won't keep asking for a place in your life. They froze. No dramatic punctuation. No threat. Just a boundary spoken softly. They felt it like a bruise pressed. Their thumb hovered over the keyboard. Their breath caught. Their eyes blurred, and they wiped them angrily as if tears were another inconvenience. They began to type. Draft 1, short. Safe. Cowardly. Hey. They stared at it. Deleted. Draft 2, medium. Still hiding. I hope you've been okay. I saw you today. Their stomach turned at the thought of you reading that and feeling watched. Deleted. Draft 3, long. A flood. I'm sorry for how I disappeared. I told myself it was timing and work and not wanting to stress you, but it was fear. I miss you. I think about you all the time. I didn't know how to be what you deserved and I punished you for my own insecurity. You didn't deserve that. Their throat tightened. Their hand trembled. Too much. Too late. Too hungry. Deleted. Draft 4, risky. Too selfish. Can we talk tonight? Please. I can come over. They pictured your face reading it. The pressure in it. The way, please, can be a hook if it's not backed by change. Deleted. Their chest heaved once, like a silent sob. Almost. They set the phone down, stood, paced 3 steps, turned back, picked it up again. This is what it looks like when someone's pride and their love are in the same room, and only one of them gets to leave alive. They tried again, slower, like someone handwriting a confession they can't edit later. Draft 5, accountable. No excuses. No manipulation. I'm sorry. I know my silence cost you. You don't owe me a response. I just needed to say the truth, I love you, and I acted like someone who didn't. If I ever get the chance to speak to you again, I'll show up with consistency, not speeches. They stared. Their body reacted like it knew before their mind did, pulse in the throat, heat in the ears, palms sweating. Then they saw something that made the room tilt. The top of the chat looked different. A small icon. A small warning. A lack of the familiar. They backed out. Opened again. Sent a test message to themselves. Checked another conversation. And then it hit them with the slow cruelty of reality: you had restricted access. Or changed your number. Or blocked them. Not as punishment. As protection. A holy thing, my beloved child. Boundaries are holy. Their thumb tapped "call anyway," as if sheer will could summon you back into reach. The phone rang once. Twice. Then a recorded voice, cold, automatic, final, cut through the air. This number is not available. Their mouth fell open. They ended the call and sat down hard, like their legs had been removed. Too late. Maybe not forever. But too late for the version of you who used to wait. They pressed their fingers to their eyes until they saw stars. They whispered your name like an apology no one could collect. And listen closely, this is where your discernment matters. Because the ache you feel hearing this, if you feel it, does not mean you abandon yourself. It does not mean you run back into old patterns just because someone finally woke up. You don't chase, my beloved child. You don't bargain for presents. You can listen without surrendering. If they come with beautiful words but no change, you are allowed to stay still. You are allowed to require proof that lasts longer than emotion. Love that can't be trusted is not love you can build a life on. Yet there is something else happening in the unseen spaces between you. When they realized they couldn't reach you the old way, they didn't get angry at you. They got quiet. The kind of quiet that isn't sulking, it's reckoning. They opened their notes app, as if a blank page could be a bridge. They wrote your name at the top, then erased it, then wrote it again. They remembered your line, "I won't keep asking for a place in your life." And something in them finally understood, you weren't trying to punish them. You were trying to survive them. Another microsecond of truth slipped in, sharp as a splinter. They had mistaken your patience for permission. They stood up and went to the window. Outside, the city was a scatter of headlights and damp asphalt. A siren rose and faded. In the reflection, their face looked split, half shadow, half screen glow. Somewhere in them, the fear tried one last disguise, maybe it's better not to disturb you. Maybe it's respectful to let you go. But respect without courage is just convenience in a suit. They texted their sister. Do you have their new number? They wrote. A long pause. Then, no. I think they changed it on purpose. Their stomach sank. Their fingers went numb. They texted the friend again, they blocked me. Or changed it. The friend replied, good. That means they're learning self-respect. That line stung like antiseptic. Then another message from the friend came through, and it was quieter, almost kind. If you love them, you'll do this right. No sneaking. No pressure. No guilt. Find a clean way. A clean way. My beloved child, do you feel the difference? A clean way doesn't break your peace. It doesn't corner you. It doesn't demand immediate forgiveness because someone is finally uncomfortable. A clean way looks like accountability that can wait. They thought of the only place they could show up without forcing you, a letter. Not a dramatic one. Not a 6-page confession begging for a miracle. Something simple. Something you could read or throw away without fear. They found a plain envelope in a drawer, the kind that came with bills. They laughed once, bitterly, because of course their most important message would be written on something that once carried, due upon receipt. They sat at the table. The pen clicked open. And now time became measurable, the way it does when someone is about to change their life or ruin it. 30 seconds, they just stared at the blank page. 2 minutes, their hand hovered, shaking, pen tip not touching. 10 minutes, the first sentence formed in their mind and refused to be softened. They wrote slowly, as if each word had to pass a test. Their phone sat beside the paper, and out of habit, they opened the app again, as if you might suddenly reappear. As if the restriction might lift like fog. Nothing. They swallowed and kept writing. Their breathing steadied. Their shoulders lowered. Something that had been frantic became deliberate. This is important. Desperation wants immediate access. Love that has matured, even a little, accepts process. They paused, pen still, and pictured you reading. Not the old you who would melt at an apology. The new you. The you with calm eyes in a coffee shop. The you speaking about 2 weeks. A new metaphor rose in them, vivid and humiliating. They felt like a person sprinting to a train station with a suitcase full of apologies, only to arrive and see the tracks empty, the platform clean, the schedule flipped to tomorrow. They deserved that feeling. They finished the letter. They didn't seal it yet. Because they knew the next step wasn't romantic. It was logistical. It was humble. It was asking someone, carefully, for a way to deliver it without violating your boundaries. They called the friend again, voice low. If I give you a letter, can you, only if they want, can you make sure it reaches them? The friend didn't say yes immediately. The friend let silence do its work. Then, I'll ask. Once. And if they say no, you accept it. Their throat tightened. I will. A beat. The friend said, Almost like a warning and a blessing at once. If you show up again, you show up different. They whispered, raw. I know. My beloved child. This is where I speak to you, not about them, but about you. If a message reaches you, if a letter appears, if a mutual friend asks, if a notification lights your screen like a moth hitting glass, you get to choose. You get to read slowly. You get to feel what you feel without rushing to become accessible. You can ask, are they owning the impact? Are they respecting my pace? Are they consistent when emotions cool? You are not required to reopen a door just because someone finally knocks like they mean it. Yet you are also not required to be stone. Discernment is not bitterness. It is wisdom with a pulse. Back in that dim apartment, they finally sealed the envelope. The paper inside felt heavier than paper should, like it carried years compressed into ink. They placed it on the table like an offering. Then, as if their body couldn't tolerate stillness, they picked up the phone again and opened your chat one more time. They stared at your last line. I won't keep asking for a place in your life. They whispered, you shouldn't have had to. And then they did something unexpected. They didn't try to break through your boundary. They recorded a voice note to themselves. Not to send. Not to manipulate. Just to practice telling the truth without hiding behind text. Their thumb held the record button. The timer started, 001. 002. 003. Their voice cracked at first. Then steadied. They said your name out loud, and it sounded like someone finally taking responsibility for the sound they've avoided. At 017, they stopped recording. Deleted it. Started again. 001. 002. They stopped at 009. Started again. 001. 002. By 030, their eyes were wet. Not because they wanted sympathy, because they could finally see the version of you they had been talking to for months, the you who was shrinking your needs to fit their comfort. They ended the recording and didn't delete it this time. They didn't send it either. They just sat there, listening to the quiet, as rain started tapping the window with gentle insistence. Then the phone buzzed. A message from the friend. One line, I asked. They said they'll decide after they read it. No promises. No promises. Good. Because the only love worth trusting is the one that can withstand uncertainty without becoming entitled. They held the phone with both hands, like a fragile bowl. Their thumbs hovered over your chat again, even though they knew they couldn't reach you directly. And here is the final edge of action, my beloved child, the place where stories either turn into responsibility or collapse back into fantasy. They opened a blank message field anyway, not because it would go through, but because they needed to see the shape of their honesty in the place they had once hidden. Their cursor blinked. Once. Twice. Like a heartbeat on a monitor. They started typing. They stopped. They erased. They typed again. Their breathing slowed. Their shoulders squared. Their eyes focused the way they do when a person decides not to be ruled by fear anymore. Outside, The rain intensified, and the city lights smeared across the glass like wet paint. Inside, the room held its breath with them. And the first sentence they typed was not what anyone would expect.